welcome back to my YouTube channel. So what is today's video about? Well, lately I had a lot of people reach out to me who find themselves at the end, at the bottom of their entrepreneurial journey. Things went south and they just don't know how to pick themselves up, and many of them are just contemplating ending it all. Just like literally an hour ago, I finished a conversation with one such gentleman. And well, of course, when you go on podcasts and you talk about your own failures and the bounce back, that's a natural thing to happen for people to reach out to you when they are feeling down. And the question that I most often get is, I don't know how to bounce back. So how did you bounce back? And what I see is that very often they think that the bounce back happened overnight, but it wasn't so. So let's travel a little bit back into the history of my entrepreneurial journey. Let's set the stage and then let's talk about what I did to then finally bounce back and regain control of my life. So as you might know, if you watched any of my podcasts, I lost everything in December 2009 with the financial crisis, my companies not having all the right foundations in place, and it was a domino effect. Overnight, I lost everything, and I ended up hugely in debt personally as well. Fast forward a few months, depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, until that last suicide attempt when I was on the balcony, which thankfully I didn't jump, and then when I came back into the apartment. So what happened then? So the first thing that happened was that I sat down, pen, paper, and I really just started writing all of the things that I did wrong. All of my failures, mishaps, bad decisions, bad partnerships, like all of it. I was just making a huge ass list of things that went wrong. But I didn't stop there. It wasn't just a list of failures. Later, I went back to each and every one of those and I started thinking, like, what can I learn from this experience? What could I have done differently? What can I do differently? What do I need to learn, or what kind of personal or business development do I have to go through to become better at this thing and that thing, and so on. So it became almost like this book of wisdom and knowledge that I was able to accumulate through all of my past failures and mishaps. Well, that created two things. First one was that I felt more positive, even though, you know, they were there, all my failures staring at me. But because of all the things that I learned from them, I felt very empowered, knowing that if I do things differently this time, I can succeed, I can do even better, I can go even higher. So it was very empowering moment, even though it might feel strange. Now, the second thing was that to work on all of those things, personal and business development things, I needed time. So things didn't happen overnight. Things didn't happen just by me sitting down, making a list and, you know, going through the list and figuring out all the lessons that I can learn. Things that were there took time to practice, learn, and become good at. And so I needed time. And that got me to the second thing that I did, which was just really brainstorming. What am I good at that I can offer to this world and people will find value in it? And at that time, I had two things going on for me. One was I had a huge network of people because by that time, I was an entrepreneur for what, about 15 years, 12 years, 15 years, something like that. So if it happened in 2010, I started my entrepreneurial journey in 97. 13 years of networking, and I always loved networking. I was always networking a lot, so I had a big Rolodex of contacts. And the second thing was that I knew, and not just because I knew it, but people also told me that I'm really good when it comes to selling. I'm good in sales. And so I put one and one together, and I said, okay, I can go to these entrepreneurs on my list, and I can ask them, hey, do you need more sales coming in? Can I help with that? But instead of being an employee, how about if I make some sales, I get a certain percentage as a bonus for the sales that I brought in. It was quite a no-brainer. You don't have to pay the guy a salary. He will bring in some sales, and then you just give him a percentage of what he sold. And so many entrepreneurs said yes to that. And then I went out there, I started selling. At first it was a little, but then little by little, those numbers started growing. And in the beginning, it was enough to buy food. And then it started to being enough to make some payments as well for my past losses, for the debts that I incurred, and so on. But that journey gave me the time and the space that I really needed to work on my business development, on my personal development, and work on all of the different things that I knew I have to learn and correct and do better in the future. So when the time come, and the time came in 2014, so 4 years later, to start a new business. But when I started that business, I didn't start from where I was. I started with a lot of new knowledge, a lot of new experience, a lot of lessons learned. And so that business went on to be successful. I had a successful exit, and then, failed coach and everything. But what happened was I had that space of 4 years in between my failures and starting a new business, to really learn from all of that. And what I hear from most people who reach out to me is, I had, some things that happened to me. I fucked it up, I failed, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. Now, how do I dust myself and pick myself up and go straight back onto the horse? And they might not realize that they need some space in between. And now, how can I use this space to survive and then learn and practice all the things that I need, so when I do get back on the horse a few months later or a few years later, I don't do same mistakes as I did to get me where I am today. Does this all make sense to you guys? I hope it does. So what I'm trying to say here is that picking yourself up doesn't happen in an instant. Now, of course, now it depends how many failures, how big those failures were, and so on. So maybe the time will be shorter than my 4 years. Maybe it will be even longer if you had even bigger things that you need to learn and practice and improve. So it's hard to say how long it will take. And then on the other hand, you do need to survive in between. So if there's something that you're good at, I don't know, maybe you're good at writing, maybe you're good at sales, maybe you're good at, something else. Just go online, try to figure out what are certain things that you're already good at, or certain things that you can become good fairly quickly. Turn that into some income, grow that income, and that will buy you some time and space so that you can work on the really big things to become a different kind of entrepreneur later on in the journey. I hope this all does make sense, but this is how things happen for me. And I know when I go on podcasts, they usually skip this part. Not sure really why. I guess, when you've been an entrepreneur for now, almost 30 years, 27 years, there's only so much you can explain in an hour or an hour and a half, which is how long usually podcast interviews last. So you can't really go very deep into those little details. And I do want to go deep into those little details. So this is one, because I've seen, especially in the last few months, like last week I had one guy reaching out, this week one guy reaching out, and there were quite a few more just in this year alone, and we are now in April. Just 4 months in, not even 4 months in, and many people reached out to me, explaining to me what difficult situations they are in, how they might be contemplating to end it all, how maybe they even tried to end it all, and then they say, I found your podcast episode, it really inspired me that things can happen, things can be done, life can become good again. But what they usually don't know, and that's because you go so fast through the journey in the podcast episodes, is that it took time to go from 2010 to 2014. I didn't start new business in 2010. I started it 4 years later in 2014. And so that time in between was devoted to just learning the lessons, practicing things, learning things about personal development, business development, a lot of firehousing, strategizing, planning, thinking, a lot of going on little short travels by myself just to do self-awareness, to work on myself, to reconnect with myself, to lay down strong foundations on just who am I, what's my why do I want to do things that I want to do, and so on. So really just the whole strategizing, planning, learning, growing, practicing, all of those things then accumulated in a new version of Miha, a different entrepreneur who understood the value of foundation, who understood certain things that the old Miha didn't, because the old Miha was all about marketing and sales, and then everything will just magically come together. But really understanding that there are more things that need to come together in a business, becoming a better leader, stepping out of being Mr. Nice Guy, stepping into servant leadership and so on, which is very different between being Mr. Nice Guy and being a servant leader, and so on. So many things that had to happen so that I really learned my lessons, so that I really practiced many different things, and so that eventually I ended being a different kind of entrepreneur, and then through those changes, making things happen in the right way. Again, every journey will be different. I had really a lot to work on, so I really needed all that time. And I mean, by no means I think that I mastered everything in those 4 years. No, what I turned into is a person who is always looking for growth opportunities. I don't think a day goes by when I don't learn something new, practice something new, work on myself, work on my business skills, and so on. So I'm on this lifelong journey of learning, practicing, becoming better. And that will stop when I eventually die, and not a day sooner. But those 4 years were enough for me to do things differently and to make that business a successful one, if it makes sense at all. So yeah, if you are, somebody who finds yourself in difficult situation and don't know what to do and how to move past what happened to you, maybe this can be one way of you to approach it. I'm not saying it's the only way. It's what helped me, is what I explain to people when they, and I always say, I'm not saying that this is the only way to do it. I'm just trying to give you my perspective, what I did, what helped me, and how I was able to move on. So by no means take this as the only way. Take it as one potential way to overcome the difficult situation you might be in right now. Do some steps towards it. See if it makes any sense for you. You can still reach out to me. LinkedIn would be the best way. You can post a comment below. You can ask me to go further into details. I'll try to think about other little things that I could go deeper into that I usually don't have time to do when I'm being interviewed for a podcast or when I'm, speaking at a conference or something like that, because you have to be really fast in that little time that you have there. So I'll try to use this platform to go deeper into topics like this. But yeah, if there's anything I can do to help you and support you while you're going through difficult times, just reach out to me or ask a question in the comment, and I'll try to do the best I can to provide you with value, to provide you with some sort of help and support while you are working through things and while you're trying to become a different version that can actually make it. I think that's it for this video. It's not the most positive one, but it's lessons like this that transform us into that happy, energetic version that we have to become to then go on and become successful. With all of that said, take care, and I wish you all the best on your journey, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.